Hello, everyone. Oh my gosh, I literally just rolled out of bed and for my live with Gwendolyn today. Oh my gosh, you guys are in for a treat. I'm still pulling up my notes and everything. Sorry. I have known Gwen for many, many years, and I have known her familiar Roxy, knew her familiar Roxy. I feel like Roxy's still around though. And we're going to be interviewing her and finding out all about her very, very magical relationship there she is. Hi, Gwen. Hi. Let's get her in here. Well, let me just give a little, before I bring you in, I'm going to make a couple of announcements. What am I doing here? Why am I doing a live? If you haven't been jumping into my lives for the last week or so, or two, you might not know that I have a live interview series that I'm doing called Meet My Familiar, where I'm interviewing magic makers and talking with them about their familiars. And the reason I'm doing this is because I have a new book coming out in January called The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars. It's coming out through Hay House. Super proud of this book. This book, if you like animals, are you interested in animals? Do you love animals? Do you have a relationship with animals? Then this book is for you. It's about making magic with your animals, including things like inviting a familiar into your life, or finding a lost familiar, or protecting your familiar, or, I mean, the list goes on and on. We've got over 100 spells, all kinds of different animals, everything from wild animals to farm animals to pets, to insects and spiders and fish and lizards and snakes and salamanders. I mean, we've got it all in here. So I've really covered all the bases. I think somebody brought up one animal the other day that I didn't have. I'm like, dang it, I don't have that one in there. But pretty much every animal that you might encounter, birds, flying animals, crawling animals, everything. I mean, everything, swimming animals, they're all in there. So just wanted to let you know that if you are interested in this, you can be a big help to an author by pre-ordering the book. And if you pre-order, we are giving you some amazing bonuses. I won't go into all the bonuses here. You're going to get your first bonus signed up right away. It's a $40 workshop with me. It's my full moon workshop. It's the workshop I normally charge $40 for. You'll get a free pass to it in January. And the January topic is going to be Introduction to Animal Familiars. So it's like the perfect class. So if you go to animalfamiliars.com, you can sign up, you can pre-order, you can let us know that you pre-ordered so that we can send you your, your coupon for that class so that you get that class for free. And we're going to be dropping other bonuses as the months go on. So if you get in now, you'll get all of the bonuses, this one and all the ones to follow. If you come in later, you're going to miss out on this one. So go to animalfamiliars.com and check it out. All right. So I'm going to bring in Gwen, and then let's bring her. Yes. So hello, Gwen, as you come into the room, waiting for her to come in. Um, I'll tell you a little bit about Gwen when she comes in. There she is.
Hi. Hi, Pam.
We see each other, even though she's on the other side of the country from me. We see each other almost every week. We play
Yeah,
games on Thursday night. We play games online Thursday night. So it's like game night all over again.
I
But we're
know.
going
Isn't
to
it
talk about
great?
Roxy the whole time.
Yeah, I know. It's the best topic for
Of
me. And
course.
talking with you about it is just the best.
I know when we have a person or a pet that we have lost, it is I think it's such a comfort to be able to talk to people who loved and knew that person or animal. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think it's such a way of heart connection and keeping the spirit of that gorgeous being alive. Oh, so
I
much.
love that. I love that we got to spend time with her together on that road trip.
Yeah.
Such a special, and she just loved you.
Oh my
I
gosh, I
always
loved her
trusted
too.
who Roxy loved and adored.
She was the
So
best. She was
she
the
was the
best.
best.
All right. Well, let me tell you guys a little bit about Gwen. So, Gwendolyn is a tarot reader who uses the modality. She's an amazing tarot reader, by the way, one of my most respected colleagues. And I always keep telling her, you need to write a book because you're so
Someday, soon.
knowledgeable. She uses the modalities of numerology, astrology, and cards of destiny in her readings. I mean, she is so knowledgeable about all these different unusual modalities. I mean, not everybody uses numerology Not even everybody uses astrology in a divination session. I like to use it just to get a vibe for someone. It's always helpful, I think, when we're talking about other people and looking at matches. I mean, that's about as far as I go.
Mm-hmm.
You go much, much deeper. But she uses numerology, astrology, and cards of destiny in her readings. She's been an author on Daily Ohm. She has a couple courses on Daily Ohm, I think. And she hosts a YouTube channel and teaches workshops in tarot, numerology, and astrology, and has been doing readings for international clients via Zoom since 2013. You even came to my old shop and taught a class in numerology. Remember
That was
that?
such a fun numerology
Yeah.
class. I had so much fun with that. That was actually, I think, when we first
Yeah.
met.
Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
think Alyssa introduced
Yeah.
us. Yeah. Around that time. So that little very, very brief bio will tells you a little bit about it, but we're going to find about you and Roxy. So I'm going to, ask you some questions. I sort of told you what kind of questions we're going to ask, but I actually don't know this part of your story with Roxy. So Roxy was a mix, right? First
She
of
was a
all.
mix. Yeah, she was a mutt. I got her from an animal shelter. She was Rhodesian Ridgeback, Pit, and German Shepherd mix. And I had just gone through a really bad breakup, and I had been looking for a dog. This is actually funny. I had been looking for a dog since before Roxy was born. I wanted to get myself a dog for Christmas, and I had been looking and looking and looking. I went to all the shelters. I had dogs on my lap. I wasn't feeling the connection because I know that you just know when you look into that animal's eyes. And I had even looked online. I had gone through so much, about 6 months of looking for a dog, and she wasn't actually born until March. And I found her in probably about June or July. My mom pulled a trick on me and she said, "Hey, can you help me pick up this bike?" We did that, and she took me to an animal shelter. Roxy was the second dog I looked at, and she just looked up at me and tilted her head, and I instantly knew she was the one. My mom even said, "Don't you want to look at any of the other dogs? There's like 20 other dogs here." I was like, "No, this is my dog. This is, you feel that instant connection. There's something otherworldly about it, and you just know." So
Yeah.
that was my story with Roxy.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
pick
How
up the
she
next
came
thing.
in. I wonder how many months were you looking?
I initially was looking for 6 months, but it turned out to be a full 9 months, which is kind of funny because it's almost like a pregnancy
Yeah.
thing, you know?
I I'm like, the reason I asked that is because I wonder, because okay, first of all, I want to tell everybody you're a Pisces, and
Mm-hmm.
Pisces are the most naturally intuitive sign. Pisces in the house. Woo.
Pisces.
um, and Pisces is really the most intuitive sign, for better or for worse. I mean, you're empaths and you pick up on every little
Double
piece of
edged.
dust
Yep.
out
Yep.
there. Yeah. But, so if you are a Pisces who I think is flourishing, you pay attention to your intuition. I think this is where, honestly, we're going to talk about astrology now. I think this is where Pisces suffer,
Mm,
is when they deny their intuition, or
mm,
when people outside of them, family members, that's not right, that's
mhm.
not true, and it's true, right? So
Right.
but I think that this is great for those highly intuitive people to understand that they can get into that deep, what you were doing was deep intuitive
Mm,
connection of knowing, that inner knowing, and listening to that inner knowing. That is
absolutely.
the thing, right?
Yeah.
Listening to that inner knowing. So oh my gosh, and I love this is probably one of my favorite questions that I ask, because I feel like the stories of how familiars come into our life oftentimes have a mystical element. And
Mm-hmm.
this wonderful 9 months, like a human pregnancy, is really like you're really almost sensing her or
Absolutely.
manifesting her.
Yes, and preparing. Like I had been doing a lot of preparing. I actually wanted a dog for years. And I always knew I couldn't have a dog at different places that I lived because I didn't have a yard. So I was actually, the place I was at, I was preparing the yard. I was thinking about where she was going to be. And this is part of the magical process, is that you have to call that energy in and welcome it and sort of feather the nest and feather the bed. And I was preparing. I knew the dog was coming. I knew that I was ready to welcome her. I knew that I was was prepared. And so I put it out there, and I was actually really frustrated because she didn't come as soon as I thought. I thought I was going to go Christmas, get that dog, and she wasn't even born yet. So I really am thankful that it actually took a little bit longer, because she was the perfect dog. Any other dog that I would have just gotten, it wouldn't have been the right one. And I think, on the subject of animal familiars, I think animals do help us tune into our intuition because they're nonverbal. They operate on a purely intuitive level. And I feel like, maybe we'll talk about this more, but I feel like what Roxy really helped me do, because we sort of shared the same central nervous system at some point, is she helped me tap into what is the feeling of something. What are the vibes that I'm picking up on? She was really tuned in when it came to people walking down the street. She was just a love. She just wanted to love and kiss on everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
But if there was someone who was strange or had a dark energy or had, just something, I could really notice immediately that she would pick up on that. And I could tell just by her energy that she would tense up, or she would get quiet, or she would do a low growl. So I think one of the beautiful things about animal familiars is they help us bypass that conscious mind and tune into, like, what is the energetic imprint or feel of something, or a person, or a place. Or I even just recently heard that one of the reasons that birdsong is so calming to our nervous systems is because birds will only sing when no predators are present. So I think animals have so much intuitive wisdom for us, that it helps me sort of get quiet my mind, because I could be very in my head. And she helped me just tune into that sort of inner knowing part and connect with her and amplify that field of sensing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is we haven't really talked about, nobody has really talked about it, but it's absolutely true. You bring up such a great point, is that when we're working alongside the animal, they can attune our intuition. Like
Absolutely.
you might walk by somebody and be closed off,
Right.
especially somebody that's not, you don't have practice into intuition, and think that's fine, right? We're good, everything's good.
Mm-hmm.
But that that animal familiar will let you know, and likewise will alert you when you are not as
Yes.
highly attuned. Like
That's
I
right.
almost think of like the smell thing too, like
100%.
dogs
They
will
they
smell
pick up
things,
on
right?
all kinds of, they're reading all kinds of information that we as humans read too. But sometimes I'm paying attention to, like, what's the expression on the person's face, what's going on, and then she would help me drop into, she would alert me to, like, what's going on this other level. And so in some ways my awareness was brought into a new depth, like sort of out of the conscious and into more of like the sensing world, which I think animals are really masters at,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
don't have that conscious. I mean, I believe all living beings are conscious and have feelings and thoughts and emotions, but they don't have that verbal. They don't have the problem of the mental
Yeah.
block that humans do. They're just 100% in reality in the moment.
Yeah. Our rational mind can be very helpful, but our rational mind can also be tricky,
Yeah.
you know.
We can get lost in that.
And
It can give us stories and illusions that animals don't have.
yeah, I also think it's like a very shouty for humans. The rational mind's a very shouty,
Yes.
loud voice, and the intuitive voice is a very quiet voice.
I agree.
So this is another method. Like if you want to develop intuition, is working with your familiar to really, and that's a mindfulness practice too, because
Absolutely.
like you said, it may not be that your dog is growling at somebody or getting
Hmm.
aggressive. It might be just like a tensing or
That's right.
alertness
That's
that is
right.
like, I'm not so good with you, or it doesn't have to be this an aggression. And likewise, I think there are animals that, because of their circumstances and how they've grown up, are aggressive toward everyone, and then again,
Sure.
then that's just them being reactive. But when you have a dog like Roxy, who is generally a friendly and welcoming dog, she was such a little love, like you said. She just immediately we were like pals,
Yeah. She just wanted to
right
love
away.
everybody.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that so much. Um, so in terms of, you kind of already answered that question of like, what did she add to your spiritual practice? Is there anything else that you feel like, besides
Well,
the heightening of intuition or making you or confirming? I love that idea of like, something seems off here, and your dog going, yeah, something
yeah.
is really off here,
I mean, I think it's kind of like I love to talk about energy, and I believe that each person, I think our spines have this field. I believe that each human has a torus that centers around us. And for those who aren't familiar with the torus, it's a shape, it's sort of like a donut shape of energy, and it's actually centered with the heart, which I think animals embody more. And the heart and the brain work together. They're both those sensing and reactive central nervous systems. I believe, and this is kind of interesting and weird and deep, but I believe that when two beings, and I think this is why sex is so powerful too, is I think when two
Yeah.
beings align their nervous systems, it amplifies that torus energy. And so you get a bigger, larger heart field, a bigger mind field, a bigger creation field. So I think that for me, what Roxy did was amplify everything, my being and her being coming together, just created this amplified field so I could reach further and feel people. I could reach further in terms of my thoughts of opportunities. I just feel like a dog or an animal familiar, they're such messengers and they're such amplifiers, almost like a quartz crystal. I mean, I know I'm talking about like weird hippie
No.
stuff here, but I think a lot of your viewers can handle it.
Yeah, of
So
course.
yeah, I really think
They're
that
with me, aren't they?
exactly.
So,
I think that a dog or a cat, anything that has a heartbeat is live, it's vitality, it's another consciousness. And anytime you bring consciousness together, I believe there's an expansion.
oh my
And
gosh.
so right? And when you
Yeah.
share a nervous system or heart energy with another being, it becomes so strong and wide. And so to me, she amplified my life in so many ways.
Oh my gosh. And I think, I mean, when we talk about magic, you're a magic practitioner. I mean, in many
Oh
ways, I
yeah.
think.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and I think when we talk about magic is using your energy, but you can also get
Right.
support
Right.
from so many places, from planets, of course,
Mm-hmm.
from planets, from the earth, from nature all around you,
Absolutely.
elements. And of course, animals and plants can lend us their energy as well. And
Yes.
so when we start, these are the things that when we have a willing participant, this is what my book's all about. It's like the willing participation and cooperation of
Yes.
animals. This is not about turning an animal into your
Not
minion.
at all. She was my teacher. If anything, I always called Roxy my bodhisattva. I really believed that she was an ascended being that came down. My mom always used to joke, who rescued who? I really think that Roxy came in to take care of me. And,
Yeah.
so she was
Yeah.
my teacher. I always think of her that way.
It's absolutely what I call Glinda, my teacher. I call
Yeah.
her my teacher
Yeah.
because Glinda's my cat familiar. Now, I call Ozma, my little
Oh.
kitty, she's my healer. Oh my gosh,
Mm.
last night I was having horrible anxiety. I
Mm.
was just like, the election was getting in my head, and I was
Sure.
like, she was lying on my chest and purring like, it's okay, you're going to be okay, all is well. She's my healer.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yes, I call Glinda my teacher too. Isn't that wild
It
that
is
we
wild.
see them
Makes sense
in that way?
to me that we would both think that though, because
Yeah.
we both have such a love and appreciation for all animals, but especially our kindred familiars.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, did you ever, when you were doing
Hmm.
readings, did you ever find that she had some kind of interaction with the readings or interest in the readings or anything like
That's really
that?
interesting. The most that I would see that she would do is that sometimes if I was doing a reading, she would come over to the table and sit with me. And sometimes she would seem very disinterested. So that would kind of give me a vibe of like, what is my client's energy like? What am I picking up on? Is this something like if I was talking about a relationship, is this disinterested energy? Is this, coming and sitting and staying energy? So for her, she didn't so much participate in things, but she would give me information. I always paid attention and listened to what was going on with Roxy. And I always see things in terms of like a yes or a no, especially when I'm doing any creation or I am energy. If there's something where I hit a block, I'll ask a question about what is this about? Or I really one of the things she did that helped me a lot was tuning in and listening to her and just seeing, okay, what is the vibe? What's going on? She helped me have that expansion of awareness. So I think in that way she was more of a support to me than anything else.
Yeah, it's not like she was interested in the
Right.
tarot or the reading necessarily, but interested in the energy around this reading or
Right.
activity, magical activity.
Right.
Very
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
So detailed and attuned. You're so like amazingly like
She and I shared like a nervous system, and I really feel like, what she was feeling, I was feeling, what I was feeling, she was feeling. Like we just always wanted to be with one another. I always wanted to be
mm,
with her, she always wanted to be with me. And I feel like what she helped me with was develop sensitivity, almost like getting quiet, tuning in instead, again, sort of like bypassing that rational mind. And the more I listened to her and paid attention to her and took notes, which was all the time, I feel like the more I learned and the more I could just flow easily through things instead of making difficulties and problems and challenges with my mind. I was able to drop out of my mind and into my heart.
yeah.
I think that's the biggest lesson I learned from Roxy.
Oh my gosh, amazing. So for those of you just popping in, Roxy was Gwen's dog familiar,
Mhm.
who passed away a few years ago, but I got to hang out. We went on a road trip together. Gwen and I are friends, and we went on a road trip together, and Roxy was there. So I developed a friendship with Roxy too, which was, she really was very special. I would say you're right. You're saying she's a
She's
bodhisattva.
a
She was very enlightened.
bodhisattva.
Yeah, she's very enlightened. You know,
Yes.
I don't know if my familiar Glinda is I mean, she's enlightened, but she's not like Roxy was. Roxy was like, oh,
They're both teachers.
yeah.
I actually wonder if
Glinda's too
there's
opinionated to be. She's got her opinions about things. So,
they both fit with us. They both fit with us so perfectly. You know what I mean? And they're so in the moment and they're so like instinctual. I always wonder, like, are animals higher beings that have taken a vow of silence? I think about that. And to teach us, like, what does it mean to just be with someone? They're the best counselors. They're the best, like, you have the healer and the teacher. It's just, I don't know. I think about that kind of stuff all the time.
amazing, amazing. Um, so here's another question that I think is something I usually wrap up with. I mean, are there any stories? Well, before we get to that question, are there any stories about like specific incidents where you could really sense that um, that intuitive alertness, or maybe a time that you were not aware of something and she was, and she alerted you
I
to it,
think
or
the most, it's funny. I think the most, I can give two examples. One was when I was living in New York. And when I would walk I lived in Brooklyn for a while, and I would walk the streets with Roxy. And there were times, and it's funny, I would always gauge what people's reactions were to her too, because she was a big dog. She was like 95 pounds. And
yeah.
a lot of people, were put off, and some people would just come right up and pet her. But there were times, I can't think of any specific one because there were a number of times where this happened, where we were walking along and Roxy would just sort of like stop or freeze and not continue on the thing. And so she was kind of alerting me that there was some sort of hazard or person or danger. I mean, I think so much a lot of people associate dogs with protection too. And so there were times where she just kind of like snapped her fingers by stopping, or just me tuning into her and realizing she wasn't feeling comfortable moving forward. And so I was able to pick my head up and say, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then there's other times where like kids would run up, and Roxy was a-okay with them doing what my mom called double dip. Like, she'd be okay with like three kids just petting her, and I triple dip. So it was really interesting. I guess the best thing that I could say was I always trusted her judgment. She was always right on. Even when I maybe thought something of another person, she would pick up on what's going on underneath. So it's kind of a repeat of what we talked about before. But yeah, definitely in a big city, it was what I felt so safe having that dog, even though I know she would just lick people.
Yeah.
She would, she would
Well,
tell
but
me.
but would she lick
No,
everyone? you
No,
know?
that yeah, it was very rare. I would say probably like 2 or 3%, like very, very uncommon that Roxy would not respond to someone with just complete love and adoration. So that was why I was even more aware and like pricked my ears up, because I was like, this is not her. This is
Yeah.
not what she's about. So
Yeah, that unusual behavior is also such a clue. And I also think that what a lesson for you and a lesson for everybody that's watching about how when we work within what animals can also teach us is that we can love everybody in the world, but we don't have to
amen.
love everybody
We can
close
love
up,
everyone in the world, but it's also good to pay attention to our instincts,
right?
and pay
Yeah.
attention to our energetic information that I have a friend who is a poet, and he said the human eye sees so much. And I think because everything's filtered through our brain, sometimes we, don't necessarily get that. But I think all the information is there and comes to us. That's what we get sensation from. And I think dogs, animals, cats, all birds, all the animals don't have that extra filter. So I think they're extra good at just that sensing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I think about that, that shows us about what healthy boundaries are,
Right.
which is, sometimes people who have a spiritual practice and aspire to an elevated, let's say elevated,
Right.
will say, I have to love everyone. I have to accept everyone. I have to be um, everybody equal. I have to, it's like all or nothing in some
Right.
way. But that all or nothing is not really appropriate. It doesn't mean you can still send somebody love or send someone, you know,
Goodwill.
wish them well on their
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
I think wish you
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
on your way.
Yeah.
But,
Bless and
but
release.
yeah, but, but you don't have to have that, it's like there's an openness and a sensing of like, can I trust you, right?
You
Or
don't have to
something.
tango with every energy out there. And that's a
Yeah.
wisdom that every dog has, naturally. They're just so authentic. They're just so real and so in the moment. They're not thinking about, oh, what bill do I have to pay, where I'm going to be tomorrow, what appointment. They're like right here, what's this being in front of me telling me and communicating to me? And that in itself is such a lesson, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, if you were to, this is the question also, besides how did you meet your familiar, that I totally
Mm-hmm.
love asking people because they all have something different. But um, do you have any tips or tricks or guidance or advice for some? Oh, before, sorry, I'm ADD. Sorry, I have one more thing I want to say.
Yeah,
When I was doing my dog chapter, I consulted with you. Remember, we had a
I
conversation, and
know.
we were talking about, I talk about going on a safari, a word that I
Mm-hmm.
picked up from elsewhere, but wasn't my invention. But I love the idea of a safari, which is dogs are so scent oriented, and energy
Mm-hmm.
oriented, letting a dog kind of guide, going to in a natural environment, and an
Mm-hmm.
environment with not a lot of, chaos, right? Peaceful, quiet, natural environment, taking your dog there and then following your dog,
Yeah.
right? Which that let the dog lead, like a dog,
Did
like
that all the
walk.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were talking a lot about that and how you were really, I mean, informing me because my only dog in my life was when I was a little girl and I didn't walk him. So,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that experience other than walking other people's dogs. But the idea of like taking the dog and letting the dog
100%.
guide you.
Yeah,
And you
always.
were
Like
like, oh, I did that all
I
the time and it was
did
amazing.
because and she would take me places I wouldn't I wouldn't think to go. She would help me discover things. She was so tuned into what's there. Again, like it's a lesson in presence. She would find the cool things that are there that I might not. She might find a lizard that I didn't see or a little grove or
Yeah.
be interested in the bunnies. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't even know that, but she would because she could smell them,
Oh my
So,
gosh. I
yeah.
need, you know what, what I say, you're going to get your living situation to a place where you're going to have another dog in your life
I
for
know.
sure.
I know that's true. Yeah, I just have to sell this house, but
Yeah, that's that's
it'll
what I mean by
happen.
your living situation. Anybody who want to buy a house, you can talk to Gwen. Um, So the question I always love to ask is, are there any piece of advice for you would give people who want to bring an animal familiar in or want to
Hmm.
develop that relationship? Or is there any little tidbit or thing that you could say or offer that would help people in that practice in their practice with their familiar?
Yes. I would say first of all invite them in, make send out the invitation to the universe. Say, I want to connect with an animal familiar. I want an animal in my life. If you have a specific animal that you recognize as your animal medicine or your, some even if that animal's energy is something that you want to invite in, be more specific about
Mhm.
it, but really like call it in, make a space for them. Like if you're hoping to have that animal in your house, make a space for them. Maybe get a bowl for them or whatever it is, any accoutrement that
Yeah.
animal would want or need. And then I would really say trust your instincts, trust your heart about when that animal comes into your life. Like, is this the one? You will know. There will be a sense of knowing. And I also really believe, because of the animal world is nonverbal, I think when we get quiet and really listen in, that helps us connect with animals, tuning
Yeah.
into them and listening to them. And I think that they will communicate things to us that we might not hear otherwise. So
Totally,
those would be my little.
100%. Totally, 100%. I love that idea of, I didn't have that in my book, but there's a little spell for you guys that want to invite a familiar into your life
Mhm.
that Gwen just threw out like that, just
Oh,
threw out there, which is to bring those accessories in for the animal that you want to invite to your life. And then like don't just take the first one that comes down, maybe
right.
at the first one, but there's a, when you described when you met Roxy, I think of it as like that love at first sight, which to me love at first sight means you've had a past life
Yeah.
connection, right? You're actually re-meeting somebody when you
Yeah.
have love at first sight, whether it's a friend or a lover or what, or a familiar. You
Yes.
already know each other.
That's
That's
right.
why you can confidently say love at first sight, because it's not first sight, it's
Right. It's
first sight in this
recognition.
form.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
exactly, you're having that. Well, I want to read something to you from my book before we wrap up. In the beginning of a book, they have what are dedications,
Mm.
right? So I want to read my dedication to you
Oh,
that is in the book. So the
okay.
book, for all of you guys that are in, I haven't, the book isn't out until January, so nobody knows about this dedication, but I'm going to read it to you. So it says, dedicated with so much love to two beloved friends who truly demonstrate what it means to live in the magic of the familiar relationship. Buchanan Moncure, who's the love witch, and her familiar Simone, and Gwendolyn Pogrowski, your last name, and
Yeah,
her
that's
familiar
fine.
and her familiar Roxy,
Oh,
and
Pam.
also to my own magical cats
You're
too.
making me like tear up. That's so sweet.
So I dedicated my book to my two dear friends who have I've gotten to see amazing relationships and watch them from the outside and watch these amazing familiar
Mm.
relationships. And that's you and the love witch, and how your connection to the animals teaches me
Oh,
and shows other people about what it means to have a familiar relationship. So this is that's why the love witch is here, I think, because she wanted
animal
to see
lovers
her.
unite. I mean,
Yeah,
people who love
exactly.
animals are just, it's like they're willing to be taught by animals.
Yeah.
There's a special kinship.
Such a beautiful thing, and you really can see the difference between that and like a more kind of old traditional, these are my pets and I control them,
Right.
this is a cooperative venture when you have a familiar. And so yeah, so you and Buchanan express what it means to be in a beautiful, very deep, very, I think there's a whole world to explore when we go in to these relationships, and you truly express that. And seeing you and Roxy, um, just having that experience of being around the two of you, I really saw that familiar relationship so
Oh,
much, so I had to dedicate
thank you.
to you. So
There's a Hawaiian tradition. I'll make this quick because I know we're wrapping up. But there's a Hawaiian word. I think it's a kuha, where how they look at it. Instead of your pet's owner, you're their caretaker. You're the
uh-huh,
kuha, and
yeah.
so you're their person you're their steward.
Oh
It's
my
kind of
gosh, you know what they have in Slavic magic? Your kum, or kuma.
Oh, that's really interesting.
It's
Sounds
almost the same.
similar. I
That's what you
wonder if
say.
it's related.
So kum or kuma is signifies it's sort of more traditionally used as like godfather or
Yeah,
godmother,
I
but
think it
what
might
it
be
means,
related.
yeah, what it means is that you're related but not by blood.
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
they
beautiful.
say that like Baba Yaga has the wolf as her kum, and that means the wolf
Mm,
is her non-blood
right.
relation. And that is such a
Oh,
beautiful
I'm gonna check
concept, and it sounds
that
just like
out
that.
etymologically because kin and kum and kuma and kuna, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna go dive into that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. So, before we wrap up, is there anything that you are doing, a project, an event, or anything that you want to share, or how people can find you and all of those things if they want a reading with you,
Yeah,
all
I
anything
think
like
my
that?
Instagram page right now is where I'm posting. I'm getting into my jewelry and my paintings
That's right. You're
right
an
now.
amazing, another thing you didn't mention in your bio is that you're amazing artist, jewelry
Thank
designer, all these
you.
other creative things
Yeah,
that,
but if anyone wants to book a reading with me, they can always message me on my Instagram, Readings by Gwendolyn. I also have a YouTube channel. Feel free to just check me out online. But I just want to thank you again, Pam. I always love chatting and
oh, of
talking with you about these magical things,
course.
about animals. And I just want to say, like, that dedication is so treasured. And so, like, I just want to thank you
Yeah.
so much for that. I can't wait to read
Roxy
your book.
lives on. Roxy
I
lives on, right?
know. I know.
Um, so we will be meeting again tomorrow, not you and I, Gwen, but I will be here again tomorrow and doing another episode of Meet My Familiar. And my guest tomorrow will be Marcella Kroll, and we'll be talking about her familiar Lord, who is a bearded dragon. So we're going
Ooh,
to be going into, the reptile world, which is
cool.
exciting. She's our first reptile familiar that we're going to ask about. Talk to her when I was doing the book, because I've had a snake when I was younger, but I didn't have a familiar relationship with my snake.
Mm-hmm.
I was not practicing magic. I was interested in magic, but
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't practicing. But we're going to talk about that reptile connection, which is such an amazing one. I was with a tortoise and fell in love with a tortoise, that
Tortoises
giant
are
tortoise.
so cool. They're so beautiful. I'm starting to think, do I need to get a tortoise
Oh
like
my
as a
gosh.
friend?
You know what? So when I got to tell a little story. So if you guys look on my Instagram, there's a little picture of me crawling behind a tortoise saying, "This is my new boyfriend," and,
You're
and
so
Helino.
cute.
So cute.
I fell in love with him instantly.
Me too. Me too. And when I went to this gallery, Sandra, the woman that owns Cactus Gallery in LA, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna call. I got my dog. You want to meet my dog?" And I'm like, and she goes, "Angelino," and here comes this giant tortoise, boom, 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 trucking along, and I was like, it was like heart eyes,
Yeah,
boy, oi, 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 oi.
he was moving fast too. He was getting some good speed.
I know he was so um attuned to the people. He was like a dog. I mean, he
Yeah.
was attuned to people. He let you scratch him under his neck. He wasn't afraid. He was so loved and so comfortable in the human world.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of like, yeah, he came around, somebody left him with us, and then, blah blah blah. I should have her on and we talk about it. That's what I need
Yeah,
to do.
I would
Talk
love
about
it. I
okay,
would
I'm
love
gonna
it.
bug her again. Talk about Angelino because I'm obsessed with him. So anyway, so I'll be meeting with, speaking of reptiles, I'll be meeting with Marcella Kroll tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific. I think that's what it is. Yeah, 2 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll be here on Instagram. Marcella is an amazing deck and creator and an author and tarot reader. So we're going to have a great time talking with her about Lord and how Lord connects with her and her magic and divination practice. And I want to remind everyone that if you want to bring animals into your practice, or you want to make magic with your animal, whether they're a familiar or just a pet, because you don't have to be limited. The familiar
Mm-hmm.
relationship is there exchanging energy with you in some magical way, spiritual way. But I think we also have animal allies or pets that are just, or animals around us that
Right.
we love and we have connection to, but maybe we don't have that familiar relationship to. It doesn't mean that relationship is any less sacred,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like I explained, it's just like I have friends that are magical friends like Gwen, and I have friends that are non-magical friends. I still love my non-magical friends, and I still have amazing experiences and fun with them and all of that, and close and amazing heart connections and all of that. So the same thing is true with our animals around us. We can have these magical spiritual relationships with them, or we can, we can just have a fun friend relationship. But there are tools in this book to create more connection and deeper connection, and to bring in more of that awareness. I have a whole chapter about dogs, a whole chapter about cats, a whole chapter about horses. I've got sections on reptiles with a whole bunch of different spells, birds, farm animals, wild animals. I mean, insects. Got a whole thing about bees. Oh my gosh.
I wish I could
I
just
think
talk to you about this all day.
we do. We do. Anyway, so if you want to get that book, it is a huge help to authors for you to pre-order the book, because it is a way to signal to the publisher and to the book sellers that this book has some kind of traction. And so we are giving away a workshop. I have these full moon workshops that I hold. They're $40 a piece. You can get the January full moon workshop, which is Introduction to Animal Familiars, a live workshop, or watch the recording later. It's a $40 value. You get it for free if you
Amazing.
pre-order the book. And the book is only $17, $18. It's not that much. So you're getting, like, by buying the book, you're getting not only the book, you're getting the class as well. You're getting like $60. Exactly. You're getting it for free, and you're getting an amazing book that you can use with your animal magical practice.
Amazing.
So
go
to
to animalfamiliars.com.
There you go. There you're going to be my pitch lady. All right. All right, Gwen. Well, it's so great to hang out with you. I know the time just flies when we do these, and just time totally flies with you. I know.
So
we need to do another road trip again with the ghost of Roxy.
I love that.
So sweet. So sweet. Take care. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. Bye, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you later.